Hey, it's Conrad Thompson, and you're listening to 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff. Eric, what's going on, man? How are you?
I've learned a new breathing exercise, and I'm doing it, and I love it. I'm adding it to the list of all the fun stuff I could do to make myself feel better. It's really fascinating. Breathing exercises are pretty cool. But other than that, I'm doing great, man. Breathing well. Having a good day.
Well, we're excited to be live with you guys here at 83weeks.com. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell. You don't want to miss us the next time we're live. But if you've got a question for Eric, throw them this way, man. We're going to talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of professional wrestling. You know, you and I haven't spent much time talking about it, but I do want to get your opinion. I recently saw Mariah May have a fabulous match against Toni Storm at AEW Revolution. And I guess it created a bit of an online discussion about women's wrestling and what belongs and what doesn't, and maybe where this one ranks all time. A lot of people think this may be the greatest women's match on pay-per-view. Others say maybe they took it too far. I can kind of see both sides on that. I mean, but this was on pay-per-view, but what a spectacle it was. I mean, channeling her inner Cactus Jack, there is Toni Storm with a crimson mask, as Gordon Soley might say. What did you think of this, Eric? Did you see it, and what was your reaction?
I didn't see it live. I've certainly seen coverage of it. You're probably going to hear me say this a lot, most likely today, if we're talking about what's going on in current stuff and we're being fair about things and covering all things. Look, nobody's going to be surprised. It's not my cup of tea. I think it's bad for the business in general, because I think it's just one more thing that gives permission for people in the industry. I'm talking about Madison Avenue, the advertising industry, and the agencies that represent them, and network executives. It just gives them one more reason to have a bad taste in their mouth about wrestling. And it doesn't draw money. It's satisfying a certain percentage of the audience. And I guess if that's your goal and you want to check that box and you're willing to go that far to do it, that's your business model. The good news is it doesn't matter what I think, or frankly, what anybody that thinks that's the greatest match ever told. It really doesn't matter what our opinions are, because at the end of it, the market will determine it. If that kind of thing works, the audience will grow, people will spend more money, the ratings will grow, the networks will be happy, all strategic partners will be happy, because the business is growing. If the business is not growing, this is probably going to be one example of why. So the market will take care of itself, and nobody's opinion really matters. We'll find out in the long run.
It seems like everyone has an opinion about the big spot on Dynamite. Of course, most everyone knows what I'm talking about. Jon Moxley had a board filled with nails stuck to his back live on Turner Stations this past Wednesday as he was wrestling Cope. And we see now, if you're watching on YouTube, Wheeler Yuta trying to remove the nails from the back. This is something I've never seen on television before. I don't even think we can show this on YouTube.
Just go back and replay everything I just said and multiply it by 5. It's just whatever, man. If it works for that audience, go with God. I don't get it. I don't see any evidence that it's working in terms of growth and audience and brand. But it's just, I don't know, man. I used to think maybe it's because my tastes have changed so much that what really works in my mind isn't really working with the audience, but that's not it. That's not it. This is a very specific audience that likes this kind of thing. And like I said, AEW checked that box in spades.
I want to ask you about somebody else that has been making some headlines. As you and I are recording, last night, Homicide had his last match.
Mm.
If you're a longtime wrestling fan of the Independents or maybe an old school TNA fan, you'll be very familiar with Homicide. But if you're not a hardcore fan, maybe you don't know the impact that he made on the wrestling industry. Who's who of professional wrestling credit Homicide with a lot of their success. Guys like Brian Danielson, CM Punk, Samoa Joe, Eddie Kingston. I mean, on and on and on. He's been in there with a who's who. But I guess the news is he's had some health challenges, and maybe under doctor's advice, he's going to call it a career. And it feels kind of all of a sudden on a Thursday night. But if this is really it for Homicide, is he one of the great what ifs in the history of wrestling, Eric?
I think so. I had a chance to work with Homicide for a bit in TNA, and extremely talented, a joy to work with. I mean, couldn't be more cooperative. And just when he turned it on in the ring, he was special. So yeah, sorry to hear that. It's such a, anybody that experiences a health issue that becomes a crisis at one level or another, I mean, that's horrible. It's really bad. It's scary. It disrupts your life in so many different ways. Sometimes your career, stress on the family. It's a bad, bad, bad situation for anybody. And then for a performer, professional wrestler specifically, or an athlete, to have both your health and the security of just knowing you're okay to get up, walk around, and do stuff, when that's taken away from you, and then, oh, by the way, so is the career, and in many respects, part of your identity, because it becomes who you are as a professional wrestler. It has to, or you wouldn't be able to get through it. You sacrifice a lot, and it's such a big part of your life that all of a sudden you're going to lose, your health, status at least for a period of time. Oh, and by the way, you're going to lose your career too. It's hard enough for guys to walk away from the limelight, whether it's a rock and roll stage or a Broadway stage or Hollywood set or a professional wrestling ring. When you get hooked on that performance drug and it's taken away from you abruptly, not by your choice, that hurts. And like I said, they have the health scare on top of it. So a lot of empathy for Homicide. He's a tough kid. Call him a kid. There's a lot more kids around as I get older. Funny how that works. But tough guy, and wish him the best. Godspeed.
Shout out to Homicide, such a great contributor to the modern wrestling scene, and we hope that he finds peace and contentment post-wrestling. We're live here with Eric Bischoff, so if you've got a question for Eric, keep those questions coming. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell. And let's go right to a question from AOTV Productions, who says, Eric, SummerSlam 2025 takes place at MetLife Stadium, where Cena Rock 2 took place. Any chance the third match happens there? Well, that's a good question. What do you think, Eric? Could we see that happen later this year, maybe? What if Cena does become the champion and he wrestles Rock at SummerSlam? It feels like a big main event, doesn't it?
Of course. And then what if Rock beats Cena? He's got the title, and now we've got Rock and Cody.
There you go.
Because the story, you could keep both stories going at the same time. You could be building Cody could be fighting his way for an opportunity to get to the Rock.
Yes.
And that story could last a year easily.
Because what's the Rock's nickname? Remember? The Final Boss.
Yeah. We just booked it right here.
Come on. AOTV Productions has a great follow-up question. He says, Vince Russo has said that he finds Triple H's creative boring, and he wasn't intrigued until Rock and Gurwitz came back in. Do you think he has a personal grudge against him? What do you think? Do you think Vince Russo has some sort of vendetta with Triple H? What do you think of that, Eric?
I don't know why he would. He didn't work with him. I mean, he worked with him, as a part of the creative team at WWE, obviously, but it's not. I don't know. Can't imagine, but who knows? Sometimes I wonder, do people just make up this drama in their head for something to talk about? Like, is it just good commentary? Is it something that he can go off on one of his New York rants and get what he thinks is his character over? I don't know. I guess it must be working. He's still doing it at some level. How is his podcast doing anyway? Russo's. Is it a number?
Oh no, yeah, he has his subscribers. It's his full-time job. He does well with it.
Good. Well, good for him. He's good at something then.
Okay, that was a backhanded compliment. Travis wants to know, hey gents, the triple threat Mania match with Reigns, Rollins, and Punk doesn't have any real stakes, no title. Surely Paul Heyman somehow becomes the Jeopardy without any stakes. Should it main event? Has that match been officially announced? Silva, if you know, chime in audio wise so we can hear you, because I don't know that match has been announced.
No, not yet.
Okay, I didn't think so.
Yeah, so Super Dave knows some. He didn't say no, it's not been advertised or set up. He said not yet.
Well, but here's the deal. That has been mentioned since the Royal Rumble. It's been spoken about as if that three-way dance was going to happen. I've never been sold on this match, though. Even though it's been long speculated, and a lot of the others, people have nailed, like Cody and Cena. That was suggested a long time ago. Right. Tiffany Stratton and Charlotte Flair. That was suggested a long time ago. But I think this one could still be in flux. I really wouldn't want to see them in a three-way. You're not really a fan of three-ways, are you?
Well, I think three-ways, I've said it a bunch of times on this show. My opinion, it's a cop-out.
Yeah.
Unless there are three really good stories that need to collide in the ring in order to come to an end, it's just an attraction. It's an excuse to get big names in the ring, so you got headlines, so to speak, from a promotional point of view. These are your top guys, and they're all going to be in the ring at the same time. But unless there's a reason for it, if you can't tell me why they're all in the ring and why it should be a main event, then it shouldn't be a main event. It's all about the why. Why would they do that? And then, you've got the issue. I don't know. Maybe I should just step back for a minute and think about it from a more positive angle. Let's ask the question. What would any three of those guys, how would they benefit from being in the ring with each other from a perception point of view? Short answer is they're not. They won't. Because we're already at such a high level. Is Roman Reigns going to become more over as a result of being in this match, unless there's some kind of wacky important finish? Is Rollins, is Punk? No, they're already I'm not going to say as over as they can get, but they're not going to benefit from this trifecta. Well, if there's not one talent that's going to get over as a result of this above the others, if there's no motivation in that regard, why do it? Because it kind of dilutes all three. If there's no story, there's no emotion, because there's no why, and there's no reason for anybody to get behind it one way or the other, then it's just an exhibition, or it's just an attraction match. And yeah, it'll matter a little bit, and people will be happy to see it because you got three big stars, but it won't mean much.
Well, I'll tell you what does mean much in 2025. Optimizing your nutrition. And Factor has chef-made gourmet meals that make eating well easy. You see, they're dietitian approved and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. So you can fuel right and feel great no matter what life throws at you. Factor arrives fresh and fully prepared, perfect for any active, busy lifestyle. You can lose up to 8 pounds in 8 weeks with Factor keto meals. Of course, this is based on a randomized controlled clinical trial with Factor Keto, and your results will vary depending on your diet and exercise. But with 40 options across 8 different dietary preferences on the menu each week, it's easy to pick meals tailored to your goals. Choose from preferences like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. And Factor can help you feel your best all day long with wholesome smoothies, breakfast, grab-and-go snacks, and more add-ons. Reach your goals this year with ingredients you can trust and convenience that can't be beat. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/factorpodcast. and use Factor Podcast to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code Factor Podcast at factormeals.com/Factor Podcast to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box.
Hey, can I talk about this a minute?
Yeah, please do.
This is a great product, great service, by the way, both. And the reason I'm so hot on this is, as you know, I'm in the, health rabbit hole, and I'm reading a lot of great stuff. And there's an avalanche of clinically based research that peer reviewed, all the good stuff, talking about the benefits of the keto diet, ketogenic diet specifically, and the positive impact it's having not only on your overall health and your blood work and your cholesterol and all that, but even Alzheimer's. I mean, the benefits of the keto diet are just now beginning to emerge. And I've been on the keto diet for about 6 months before I went carnivore. I'm a big believer in it. They both kind of operate on the same principle, just a little bit different. In my case, carnivore is absolutely no carbs. Keto, there are carbs in the vegetables you eat, and that's allowable. That's the only difference between the two. And I feel so much better. I feel 20 years younger, and most of it just has to do with the diet. So read a little bit about ketogenic diets. This is a great way. And here's the other thing. It never fails. Once you get on a diet and it's working for you, if you're busy, something is going to screw up your day. You're going to work late. You're going to miss a plane. You're going to end up eating junk food. Or you're going to get home so late from work you don't feel like making anything. Factor's got a great selection of keto meals so that if you do miss a prepared meal or what you want to eat, really easy, man. Throw it in the oven. You're eating in 5 or 6 minutes and you're eating healthy.
Factormeals.com/Factor Podcast. Don't forget to use that promo code Factor Podcast. So listen, Eric, since we've gone live, there's been some breaking news. Maybe to the surprise of no one, there's been a new signing to WWE today. The news is out that Rey Fenix is the newest WWE superstar. That story was broken by Sean Ross Sapp over at Fightful.com. As he tweeted, Rey Fenix is officially signed by WWE. More details on both the English and Spanish select pages. So yeah, I guess this isn't that big of a surprise. The rumor and innuendo is that he wanted out of his AEW deal. We had heard he was released. I guess it was only a matter of time before he signed. But now the question is, Eric, do you make him a tag team partner for Penta? Or do you keep him separate? What would you do if you had Rey Fenix fall into your lap today?
Without knowing what their tag team landscape looks like or the plans for it, the next 6 months. So given that we don't know that, I would want to keep them apart until I figured out exactly. No, they may know. Look, this is not a surprise to anyone, including WWE. So let's just be real about that. I've known about this months before it first showed up in the press. And so he's been working at this for a long time. And I'm sure WWE was aware somehow of the progress and where they were all at. They may already have a plan, or at least an idea, a premise for a plan. But if they don't, keep your options open. There may be the right time to bring them together, because that's what everybody will be kind of interested in seeing, I would think. Those that are familiar with those two in AEW, they're going to want to see them together as a tag team. Well, don't give it to them right away. If you know that's what they want to see, make them want to see it even more. And that takes a little bit of time. And then you've got an option. You could bring them in, you could start out working together, and then whatever, you could book that yourself. It's easy. But yeah, I'd hold off just to keep my options open.
We've got a lot of questions here. We're taking your questions live here at 83weeks.com. If you've got a question for Eric, hit us up now. We want to hear from you. AOTV Productions is coming in hot. I asked this the other day when we had Lex Luger with us, but I didn't feel it was appropriate. But I guess I'll ask it now, Eric. It's a little forward. Hey, Eric, Brian Last, who, if you're not familiar, Eric, is Jim Cornette's co-host. recently said he believes DDP is exploiting people instead of helping them with everything being filmed. How wrong is he on that? Now, to be clear, I haven't heard Brian Last say this, but I don't know why this fellow would make that up. I mean, I guess I could understand that, in wrestling, everyone wants to demonize everything, but man, Dallas sure has legitimately helped people. It's hard for me to get behind calling that exploitation, Eric.
Huh. The fuck?
I feel like he's inspiring people by filming it.
I got to be careful because my visceral response, and you can already imagine what that's like. If you could hear what's going on inside my head right now, you'd be embarrassed for me. But we don't know the context, right? That could have been those words could very well have been spoken, but unless you kind of know the context of it, I am one to jump to a conclusion. I'm trying not to be.
Right.
Is what I'm trying to say. So let's just give Brian Last the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
Or let's not give him the benefit of the doubt. Let's go there first. Maybe he feels that way. He's wrong. And even just a little bit of I don't know, conscious thought and maybe a little bit of intellectual curiosity. Like if you feel that way, maybe just go to his website and look for a reason that proves your bias and proves the way you feel. Just pull something off his website. The problem is you won't find anything like that. What you'll find is a lot of people telling you in their words how much DDP has helped them.
Yeah.
That's the only thing you're going to find. And if you say, well, yeah, of course he's only going to put good things on his website because, that's what people do. Okay, I'll give you that. You're right. Go to social media because that's like the most toxic cesspool in our culture. So let's go there because nobody's going to just say nice things for the sake of nice things because, that's not how that works. So let's go and see if we can find anybody who has gone through DDP's program that has anything bad to say about DDP. All right, shoot. There you go again. Can't do that either. So maybe with a little bit of thought and giving DDP the benefit of the doubt, just talk to the people that he's worked with. There's a lot of them that'll be happy to talk to you. I'm sure they got a great story to tell. And Jim Cornette is a great storyteller, so he'd probably appreciate it. I don't mean that in a smart-ass way. But, take it with a grain of salt.
Well, let's get the negativity out of our system. AOTV Productions, who clearly wants to be Debbie Downer today, says, "Hey, Eric, Chris Cruz recently posted about how Lex Luger mistreated him, and he doubts that he's a different person. Does he just need to let it go? Holding a grudge for 30 plus years is unhealthy. And maybe we should be careful how we answer this one because we know how litigious Mr. Cruz is."
Yeah, I don't care about that.
Me neither.
I don't want to go off too far in this direction, but isn't it? This is, when I did the interview with you and with Lex, we did it, and
yeah,
I kind of told the story about how I judged him and I was angry at him.
Yes,
I just didn't want to be in the same room with him because I judged him because I thought I knew everything. And I was so sure I was right until I realized I wasn't because I got to know Lex. And the reason I'm not going to go off on Chris is because I've done that. I've said stupid shit like that without having any idea of who the person I was referring to, who they really were, what they really went through, what they really had to overcome. Sometimes it's not as obvious and drastic as what Lex had to go through, but still to them it is. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but people are really quick to judge. And I take particular umbrage at those who question people's faith. That's really taking it a little too far. Slow your roll, bro. Slow your roll.
Ask a Bum is here with us live, and he wants to know, do you know Nails Also, got any Ming stories? Did you meet Nails Kevin Wacholds when he came through with WCW? I think briefly he was known as the Prisoner for one
Yeah,
pay-per-view
no,
match.
I worked with Kevin in AWA.
There you go. Okay.
You want to hear funny? You want to hear? I do have a story. I'm not the story guy. I hardly ever have stories because
But you got one.
I didn't travel on the road. Nobody ribbed anybody in front of me back in the locker room. Like, I miss all the good stuff.
Right.
However, now you may have heard this story, but when I went to work for AWA, August of 1987, August 15th, 1987, I'll remember it forever. And I got there and I got my job, and they didn't have an office for me. So I went into the TV studio, which was on the other side of the building. The building was split in half. It used to be a big Lutheran church. So the church, the worship area became the studio, and then the rest of the offices were former classrooms and offices and things like that. So those offices were all occupied, and there was no office for me. So I built with my own two freaking hands, and hammers and nails and drills, rulers, or tape measures. I had all the gimmicks. I was like Tim the Tool Man. And the reason that's important, and the reason you don't know why it's so funny, is I'm the least handy person you've ever met in your life. My wife won't let me touch any tool other than a hammer. Like, if it can be fixed with a hammer, I get to have a hammer. But other than that, I'm not allowed to touch anything. So, but in spite of that, I took it upon myself to build myself an office. So I got the 2x4s and a drywall, and I did a damn good job. Those 6 or 8 classes I took my senior year in shop at the end of the day, just so I could technically stay enrolled so I didn't get kicked off the wrestling team, those suckers paid off. Because I knew how to measure stuff. I knew how to saw stuff. I could hammer. I could nail. Awesome. So I put 3 walls up, right? Because I was backed against the wall in the window. And I was so proud of it. It was like about the same size as the treehouse I'm in right now. But it was really cool. And I painted it nice. And I have a deer head's hanging up. So I got a big whitetail, just a beautiful mount of a deer I got in Montana. Just beautiful, beautiful buck. And I had that hanging in my office because I was proud of that buck. And Vern and Greg liked it. And I said, oh, it makes me feel like part of the team because they're impressed with my deer head and whatever. So anyway, I'm all settled in, and it's TV taping day, right? They had flown in all the talent. They did it once a month or twice a month. They'd play all the wrestlers in from all over the place. DDP would fly up from Florida, and guys would come in, and they would shoot interviews all day long, and we'd edit them into the respective TV markets that we were promoting in. So it was like a full day or two of these interviews once or twice a month. Anyway, they're doing the interview. So all the wrestlers are in there. They're cutting their promos. So they're screaming, they're yelling. I'm like a week on the job, maybe. Like, I can still smell the paint on the walls that I just put up, right? And I'm sitting in my office. I can't really concentrate on anything because everybody's threatening to kill each other next time they see each other in Sioux City, Iowa, or whatever. And I'm sitting up, but I'm just listening and laughing. And just, wow, this is crazy. All of a sudden, I hear Sheik, Adnan LKC, and Kevin Wacholds. They're just yelling at each other. And I'm going, wow, this doesn't sound like a promo. I couldn't see anything. All I could do was hear shit, right? I'm going, no, that's not a promo. You could never say that on TV. And sure as I get a thought out of my head, and Sheik Adnan LKC's head went right through my brand new wall. And I'm sitting in my office. I kid you not. I'm sitting in my office. I'm sitting at my desk, and I look up, and all I see is the top of his head. And I knew it was Sheik because he still had his gimmick on. What am I doing here? I mean, I'm used to this happening. There's this kind of stuff happening at closing time, in some rat hole bar on the other side of town. But this is odd. Yeah, and it was Kevin. Somebody ribbed Kevin either put his lights on and left them on so his battery was dead when he went out, or some kind of, Kurt Hennig-like rib. Kurt wasn't there. He was already gone by then, but some kind of Kurt Hennig-like rib. And somehow somebody pointed the finger to Sheik, and it wasn't Sheik. It wasn't Sheik. Anyway, that's my story. So, yeah, I knew him. That's why he got into WCW.
Well, something we're going to get into, or maybe not getting into, depending on, are you a good guy or a bad guy? Stopbox Pro is here to help. I'm such a big believer in this product. I have had handguns in my house for a long, long time. But when I had a little kid running around, I had to make a decision. Do I want to mess with batteries and hope they don't die, or do I want to fumble around with keys? Stopbox Pro solved all of that. See, it's easily accessible in case of an emergency, and it's still not vulnerable to just anyone. You see, the Stopbox Pro is 100% mechanical, so you'll never have to worry about it working when you need it the most. You won't have to fumble around with your keys. You don't have to worry about the batteries dying. It's going to give you more peace of mind. Not only that, but we can all support this. All of Stopbox's products are proudly made right here in the USA in their own facility. Not only does this ensure the high quality craftsmanship of every product sent out, it also creates meaningful jobs and opportunities for American workers. By the way, traveling is a breeze here because the Stopbox Pro is TSA compliant. They've got a whole variety of other innovative products at Stopbox, things like the vehicle safe or the chamber lock. Go check them out. But right now, for a limited time only, our listeners are really getting a crazy deal. Not only do you get 10% off your entire order when you use our code 83weeks at stopboxusa.com, they also give you a buy one, get one free for the Stopbox Pro. So that's 10% off and a free Stopbox Pro, all because you use the code 83weeks at stopboxusa.com. Discover a better way to balance security and readiness with Stopbox. Tons of questions coming in here, Eric. We got one from Jake from the Windy City. And he says, hi, Eric. General question. Are you a fan of any other sports outside of wrestling? I believe I heard you were a big NBA fan years back. What do you like outside of wrestling? Is there a sport that catches your attention, Eric?
I'm not a big NBA fan. I like to watch the NBA towards the end of the playoffs and obviously in the finals. I really don't watch it much during the regular season. I do enjoy watching the NFL. It kind of is a little bit like comfort food for my brain, I guess. Just something I've always enjoyed doing. So, but I don't do it as much anymore. I'll watch maybe one game a week. And even then, I'm doing stuff while the game's on, so I'm not sitting there staring at the screen. But I do enjoy it, especially that time of year. It's just part of fall, so probably why I do it. I love amateur wrestling, freestyle, Greco, mostly freestyle. I'm learning about cricket. Yes, I said cricket.
Oh, hey now, cricket.
Yeah. If you look into the popularity of the sport of cricket globally, it'll blow your freaking mind.
Yeah.
And Brat Sundrasian, my soon-to-be podcast partner on our soon-to-be named new podcast, tentatively called Stumps and Bumps.
Oh, what a great name.
Stumps for the cricket side, bumps for the wrestling side.
I love it.
Brad is one of the top cricket journalists in the world. I just saw a documentary on him. They did in Australia. I'll send it to you. Unbelievable story.
Oh, he sent me that. Yeah.
You got to see that. It's only a half hour, and you'll get why he is such a great co-host. And wow, this is going to be so much fun. But what we're going to do is Bharat, because he covers cricket, and that's all year round, right? So he's going all the time. But he's going to be covering cricket, and I'm going to be covering all things WWE. just in terms of what's going on, breaking down matches, talking about pay-per-views coming up, topical stuff, right? No dirt, no rumors and innuendo, none of that. It's just all going to be what's going on. So Bharat's going to be covering the cricket side. I'm going to be covering the wrestling side. And the reason we're doing this is because I learned that there's 355 million, not wrestling fans, WWE fans.
Wow.
And now that Netflix is landed in India, so to speak, we just thought it'd be an opportune time to take advantage of whatever footprint I have. Obviously, the footprint that Bharat has. We're going to target the show a lot for the cricket audience. They're going to give betting lines and all kinds of great information. And we're going to all learn about the sport of cricket together because I'm learning. It's a very amazing sport, really, if you look at the history of it and its impact on different cultures and how the game is played and the formats. It's really quite a fascinating thing. So, yeah, we're going to be doing that. So cricket is on my list of things that I'm interested in the world of sports. The rest of it, man, sometimes I like watching gymnastics. I'm always amazed at what people are capable of doing with their bodies. It just fascinates me, particularly floor exercises, my favorite. That's about it. Oh, obviously MMA, boxing sometimes. I love the art of boxing, the science of it, footwork and all that. But definitely MMA.
In your younger years, did you or Garrett ever do any amateur wrestling?
I did.
Really?
I wrestled. Yeah, I started wrestling in 8th grade. Yeah, 8th grade while I was in Pittsburgh for 2 years there. And then when I moved to Minnesota, the real estate agent that sold my parents the house, his son was the captain of the wrestling team in my new high school. So because the real estate agent was trying to, sell my parents a house, right? He was like, "Oh, you're a wrestler. You're moving for Pittsburgh. Okay, my son's captain of the team. I'll get you two together. He'll show you the ropes, kind of make me feel at home." And he did, and I did. And so I started wrestling in Minnesota in 10th grade, all the way through my senior year. And then after that, I wrestled for a couple years as an amateur in open, like, I don't even know if the AAU is still around. It used to be kind of a sanctioning body for amateur sports. And there was an AAU freestyle team and an AAU Greco team. And I wrestled for a couple of years on both teams and in tournaments, a lot of open tournaments. And then I got into martial arts and I kind of just lost my interest in wrestling. I didn't have time to do both. And there was no such thing as MMA back then. So it's like, pick one. And now you get to do both.
Yeah, I mean, I guess back then, or heck, even now, like if you have a lot of success in amateur wrestling and you don't go into MMA, there's not really much to do besides call WWE, right?
Yeah, well, you can, you look at a lot of the, elite level amateur wrestlers that, are not going to make the Olympics, or maybe that's not even their goal, but they're not ready to hang it up yet. And they'd like to make a couple bucks doing it. The only other option is MMA. And here's the truth from my perspective. And it's not just as a fan, not anything else other than just me as a fan. I love watching the ground game in UFC because it is chess. It is so intricate and nuanced, and it fascinates me. But for the average, for a lot of the audience, not so much. It's the striking, the kicking, the punching, the elbows, the stuff that really, really hurts, that you can relate to. You don't have to have been in a match like that to understand it hurts. And that takes a lifetime to get good at. Those guys who are good at both their ground game, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, whatever, and are great strikers, it takes a long time to get that good. So if you spent your entire life from the time you were probably 5 or 6 years old, like a Kurt Angle might have, right? Somebody that starts out young and makes it to that elite level, you've probably been wrestling almost all of your life. And you've gotten very good at that, but you haven't learned the other skills that you need to learn to compete at a super high level in the UFC or in MMA. So you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. You can get there, you can get into the UFC with a great ground game, but I don't know how far you're going to get if you haven't spent an equal amount of time getting good with your hands and your feet. It's tough. So that you're right. There's not a lot of options. I mean, there are some tournaments that you can win some money at and things like that, but not like a pro football player or a pro, basketball player. Those options aren't available really.
Want to give a shout out again to Lex Luger, who recently joined us here at 83weeks.com. We had a fabulous time chopping up with him. Of course, it was recently announced that he's the latest announcee as to be inducted into this year's edition of the WWE Hall of Fame. But there's a bit of a controversy online this week, Eric. I guess
of course there is. It wouldn't be professional wrestling if there wasn't some controversy, some drama. Give us drama. We need drama.
I think it was reported by Sean Ross Sapp and the folks over at Fightful that the WWE was planning to make overtures, if they haven't already, to see if AEW would allow Sting to induct Lex Luger into the Hall of Fame. Of course, we found out here at 83weeks.com that Lex's preference is to have both Sting and Diamond Dallas Page induct him into the Hall of Fame. And I guess Luger and those close to him have informed WWE that Sting is the preferred choice to induct him. And it's worth noting, according to Fightful, that Sting had told people he probably wouldn't do it because of his AEW deal. And now there's a lot of speculation. I guess I maybe kicked a hornet's nest because I quote tweeted it and said, "Hey, I know we counter-programmed your stadium show with a free Saturday night's main event and booked a whole tour around your London show. But can we borrow one of your talents for our thing? I know it defies all logic to even entertain the idea of helping us out, but it'd be cool if you did." And over 400,000 people had a strong opinion of that tweet. It feels like this is a little silly to me. What do you make of this report?
It falls into the stupid shit category for me. It's just silliness. First of all, WWE, I don't want to say this because it'll come off wrong, but the person that wants Sting to induct him isn't Triple H.
It's Lex Luger.
It's not Nick Khan. It's not Ari Emanuel. It's Lex Luger. That's his privilege. It should be. It's important to him. So if I were Tony, even in light of the real and perceived pissing contests that they're all in from time to time, if I was Tony and positioned the way Tony is positioned right now, I would be the bigger man. If Tony believes, like Dave Meltzer suggests, well, you wouldn't do it for me, so I'm not going to do it for you. If you're going to take that kind of infant attitude to your business, then you're going to get what you're going to get. But if I'm Tony Khan and I really believe that, like they're the bullies and have been beating me up and, trying to run circles around me and disrupt my tours and my big events. And if I really believed all that, now is the time that I would prove I'm bigger than them. If he really believes that they're trying to attack him personally or his company personally from a business perspective, and everybody knows that because he likes to tell everybody that as often as he can, this is a great opportunity to counterpunch and come off looking like the better man, because you're not doing it for WWE. You're doing it for Lex Luger. And that's what would make you the better man. Just my 2 cents.
We want to hear from you guys. We've got a poll active right now. So if you haven't already, kick us that vote. And by the way, I want to remind you that March Madness is here. And you know what that means. Buzzer beaters, high stakes hoops, watching everyone's bracket predictions completely implode. It's a time of excitement, a time of unpredictability, and a time where legends are forged. In other words, it's time to wear chubbies. Pretty good segue, huh? Chubby's has mastered the art of stylish casual wear that doesn't skimp out on performance or durability, whether it's their bright and stretchy polos, their iconic thigh exposing shorts, or their one of a kind swim trunks, aka the perfect threads to wear as you helplessly watch your bracket predictions just utterly fail. Maybe you're watching these games with your friends. Well, Chubby's original shorts give you that classic feel with a modern look. Hitting the gym is a way to make up for all those pizza and wing bites that you had. And Chubby's ultimate training shorts are built to sweat in. They've even got advanced fitness features. We could keep going, but we're only going to do this ad for so long. All in all, you deserve a wardrobe upgrade for springtime and beyond. So to sweeten the deal, for a limited time, Chubby's is giving our listeners 20% off your order with our exclusive code. Just use the code ERIC at chubbyshorts.com. Whether you're getting dressed for your workday, or maybe it's a workout or even a weekend getaway, there's Chubby's for that. And for a limited time, Chubby's is giving our viewers 20% off your order with our code ERIC at chubbyshorts.com. That's code ERIC at chubbyshorts.com. Support our show and tell them we sent you, and be your own Cinderella story with Chubby's. We got a question here from Instagram, a wrestling historian, who says, how are you going to end the Millionaires Club versus the New Blood storyline if you hadn't left WCW in 2000?
I don't even remember, which tells you two things. One is I can't remember stuff from 25 years ago that well.
And
it wouldn't have been very good.
I knew it.
Remember it.
If it was awesome, you'd remember for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we'd be talking about it for the next 20 minutes, and I'd be getting little notes in my comments here. Would you shut the hell up so we could get an ad in?
I love it. I love it. John wants to know, jump away, Eric. He straight up said DDP doesn't help people unless he can film and exploit them word for word. Last is a terrible person. I don't know where all this Brian Last hate is coming from. Again, I didn't hear this, but I think we disagree. But maybe that's because Brian doesn't know Dallas. Maybe he's just what he sees online, and he's
sure.
It's
hey, look, it's easy to jump to. I mean, if that's the way your brain works,
right?
Usually, people that look for the worst in other people have a lot of shit they're dragging around themselves, which is why they're looking for a reason to feel better about themselves, because they know they got their own shit to deal with. But whatever. If you're looking for a reason, you can probably create one in your head. But I just know he's wrong. It's so easy to judge people without knowing him. I just know that he's wrong. It's almost silly. Is DDP a incessant self-promoter? Yep. Has he been that way from the first time I ever was in a room with him?
Yeah.
In fact, it's gotten worse. It's not gotten better. Non-stop. But guess what? He's nonstop promoting something that, yes, it does help people. Now, Brian is adding a little twist that there's some kind of some language in the contract that says, unless I'm able to exploit you, I'm not going to help you. I don't think that's probably there.
I can't imagine this.
But that's what Brian is suggesting, that he's only going to help you if he can exploit you. I know that not to be true, and I think it's an unfortunate position to take. And unfortunately, it's one of the things I love about podcasts, not just ours, but everybody's, because now everybody's got a platform and everybody can call each other's bullshit out. Have at it. You'll go a long way before you're going to find anybody that's got a bad thing to say about Diamond Dallas Page. But you go ahead.
Well said. Sky Legend 96 has a question here. Hey, Eric, if you were booking John Cena's last match, who would you put him up against and why? Let me jumpstart you. There was a suggestion made recently by Mr. Tom Carlucci, and he suggested Randy Orton probably got to be one of the last matches.
Ooh. I'm a Randy Orton fan. I think Randy Orton is one of the best talents of our era. Overall, he may not have made the most money. He probably came damn close. Consistency really matters after 20 years of being on top. But as far as being an overall performer, I love his promos. And sometimes he doesn't have the greatest material to work with, but when he does, there's nobody more believable. His entire body is a freaking entertainment weapon. I mean, he's built like he came out of some kind of AI central casting application. Hey, build me a wrestler that looks like a Greek god, but has a great looking guy, but is also really intimidating. And can act and wrestle too. And then he spits out a Randy Orton. That's what I mean. He's so fluid. That's the thing that really, the rest of the things that I'm talking about are really important, but he is so fluid in the ring that he makes it look so easy. More than anybody else that I watch. He's so fluid. Yeah, that would be great. I watch it. I may even go watch that one live.
We've got the results of our poll in, and it turns out that 73% of the folks watching here who voted in our poll at 83weeks.com said if they ran AEW, they would let Sting induct Lex Luger into the WWE Hall of Fame. Only 3% said they would not let Sting induct Lex, and 24% said they'd have no choice but to let him go, as the PR optics would be so bad if they said no. Yeah, I mean, I said this the other day on Twitter. I think it's inevitable that Tony Khan says yes and allows this. I don't even know that he's been asked yet, but
there'll be some. There could be some compromise, perhaps. Don't be surprised if you see that. And by compromise, meaning maybe he'll be there live, maybe he won't. Maybe there'll be some representation of Sting there, but I hope he's there live. I really, really do. I think Tony would gain so much goodwill from people who have lost faith or just kind of been disappointed. And there's a lot of them out there. You got to be real about life. You know, there's a lot of people that wished AEW would have lived up to their expectations. This is a chance to do a make good in that department. So I mean this sincerely. I hope he does, because Lex will be the ultimate winner.
yeah,
Tony will come in a very close second.
I got to ask, this made the rounds. A lot of people were kind of surprised at the beginning of the week when it started to circulate that Vince McMahon sat courtside for a Knicks game on St. Patrick's Day.
Thank God. If you wouldn't have thrown in the St. Patrick's Day part, I would have thought, what in the hell did he hit his head on?
With that shirt, not a fan of that shirt.
Bright green. Come on. I mean, I get wanting to get a little of attention, but you're wearing fluorescent green sitting next to a bright red ginger. Like, who's watching the game?
It was kind of surreal to see Vince make public appearances last month at the Super Bowl, this month at the Knicks game. What do you think? Can we read anything into that? He's normally been a pretty private person. It feels like we're seeing him out and about with his girlfriend more often now. And I think even Shane and his grandson Declan were there. Is this strategic? Did Vince want to be photographed? I mean, after being such a private person for so long, it feels like, boy, sitting courtside, you know they're going to acknowledge you, right?
That's why you sit courtside. I mean, it's not like he's got season tickets.
Right.
There was a lot of intention there. He's working. I don't know what he's working at, but he's working. Otherwise, he could be like on a yacht. He could be on an island. He could be traveling the world in his own jet. He could be doing a million different things. And I've never, in all the years I've been aware of Vince McMahon, other than the XFL experiment, I've never really, in bodybuilding, of course, I've never really associated him as much of a sports fan.
That's exactly why I asked, because it feels weird. Super Bowl last month, Knicks this month. It's like,
yeah.
I
That's
don't know
kind of
about that. Let's show that photo again. He looks like, I don't know if you're a Sopranos fan, but he looks like Vinny Walnuts right here. But a Paulie Walnuts. That's Vinny Walnuts right there.
I like that Tulsi Gabbard thing he's got going on. The hair.
I don't even know who that is.
You don't know who Tulsi Gabbard is?
No, I guess I'm behind.
All right.
Hey, I wanted to bring it up to you. Of course, it's the talk of the internet going right now. John Cena did his promo this past Monday, and it was live on Raw. Of course, Raw was international, so it aired in the afternoon, and we had a raucous crowd for John Cena's promo. And of course, you and I have broken down, man, basically a dozen different ways. The iconic speech where Hulk Hogan turned heel at Bash at the Beach 1996. He dropped the big leg on Randy Savage. But that's not what people talk about. It was the promo afterwards in the ring as all the garbage was flying into the ring. That's what people remembered. That's what people talked about. Well, we finally heard from John Cena, not at Elimination Chamber, but a couple of weeks later. And it happened this past Monday on an international show, Eric. I bring that up to you because I don't know that everyone has put this together. Yes, it was a hot and lively crowd, but English wasn't their first language. I can't help but wonder, would his promo have had more heat and felt more significant if they actually understood what he was saying, Eric?
You think?
Yeah.
Wow. Now, let's explore just for a moment. Benefit of the doubt, perhaps. But I know you go to Europe now, you go to Germany, 70% of the people you meet on the street speak English to one degree or another. It's not a second language, but it's damn close. It's almost mandatory in grade school and high school. It's not an option like foreign languages. I don't know what they're like now, but they used to be an option. You didn't have to take one when I went to high school. But in Europe, it's been mandatory just for 40 years that I'm aware of. At least it was. So you got to assume they kind of understood, but certainly not to the. And then you've got the audio issue. Even if you know how it is when you're at the airport. If you're having to be in an airport and you get somebody on that's native tongue is not English and they've got a heavy accent from wherever they are. And then you got the audio, because it's not the greatest speakers in the airport. You can't hear all that well anyway, even if it's perfect English and an accent you're used to. So that could be it. It could have been some of that promo, a lot of that promo, and the emotion just should go with it. Could have been lost on that audience between the audio and the English challenge. Yeah. Somebody should have thought of that one.
Well, I'm of the opinion the reason they did it over there is because John Cena is in Europe shooting a movie. So maybe it was out of necessity for his shooting schedule that they did this tour. And that way it makes sense. But I couldn't help but wonder, man, if he would have done this promo for Madison Square Garden, what would the heat have been like?
Well, especially Madison Square Garden. I mean,
they were just there, is my point.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're right, man. Isn't that fascinating? Though? Let's back up for just a second. So think about the commitment that was made here for Cena to be able to be a part of WWE right now, because they knew he had this movie. This just didn't get booked. That's not how movies work.
That's right.
So they probably had this on the books for over a year, at least penciled in for over a year. John did. So WWE went, well, the only way we're going to make this work is if we create a tour around his movie schedule. That's when you know you're over. That's when you know you're over. When they create a tour overseas to work around your movie schedule.
You're over, brother.
Hats off, John Cena.
I will say I was disappointed that we didn't really hear the why. I mean, we know why he turned his back on the fans, but we didn't hear why he attacked Cody. We didn't hear why he aligned himself with The Rock. And Charles D. Griffith is with us here live, and he says, "Am I the only one who thinks besides Cena Rhodes, the build-up for Mania 4 weeks out has been kind of cold? It looks like a lot of triple threats at Mania." I'm seeing this critique a lot, Eric. But even I have to say, as much as I'm looking forward to seeing John Cena and Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania, I don't know that the Cena match made me want to see, or the Cena promo made me want to see that match anymore. Do you think they have time to correct it down the road, or is that the story they plan to tell?
Sure. What, they got 4 weeks of TV
Yep.
left? So sure. If they agree that that's a problem, and I do agree with it was either you or the fan who asked the question. There was no. I said the same thing to myself, Conrad. Why? I mean, I'm in. I want to see it. Give me a reason why that I can feel comfortable with. It doesn't have to be an overwhelming motivation,
Right.
There's got to be a reason why. And if you start an angle out and that element of the story, that inciting incident, that thing that happens that sets you upon your journey, if that's a dud, it's a little harder to gain that momentum later on. You need to start out strong with a why that people can relate to, understand, connect with, whatever. And I agree with you. It was exciting. John Cena's turning heel. Oh, the potential. But there wasn't anything dramatic about it other than the fact that he turned heel. It was interesting. Even, and I did see the clip of his promo. I didn't see it live. I saw the clip of it. It was okay. I mean, the delivery was great, but the message was kind of weak for that moment.
Did you like the idea of keeping the look and the feel the same and going with the more human approach of, you guys turned your back on me? Or would you have liked to have seen a persona change, like we sort of talked about, like if he was bald and changed his gear and maybe he had the scruffy jeans or whatever you described, maybe the John Moxley look? Would you have preferred to see them switch the look up, or did you like keeping the look the same?
I think it's a really interesting question, and my view has changed. Going in, I was hoping that I would get a different look for John's character that somehow represented this new heel character in some way, shape, or form. I didn't know what that is necessarily, but I think they're doing it the right way for John. Because here's the downside. If you completely change his character over, it's almost too drastic. It's not authentic at all. There's absolutely no degree of authenticity when you go in the room dressed like one character and you come out of the room dressed like another without a reasonable amount of time and transition. It just becomes jolting, creatively speaking, without a reason. And therefore, in the process of doing that, you lose any connection to authenticity. It didn't feel organic, didn't feel like it was happening in front of our eyes as we're on this journey. It just happened. Like you walked in looking one way, walked out looking another disconnect. So I probably a week ago or two ago, I would have said, give me a different look. But I think, especially with the creative that they're giving him, because they're giving him kind of nuanced creative, there's no why. So we got to look for the reason, which means it's a nuanced motivation. And I think keeping him in that same character, the way they've introduced this story, probably the best idea.
Well, the best idea is for you to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell now here at 83weeks.com. And if you've got a question for Eric, we want you to keep them coming. Eric, I do want to follow up. When you think about this match with John Cena and Cody Rhodes, as it is now, we'll call it a month out, 4 weeks out. Would you switch the title here? Would you let John Cena make history and become the 17th time world champion maybe with some help from The Rock, and set up some future business? Or do you think it's important that Cody retains at this show, Eric?
I don't think it's important that Cody retains. I think what's important is there's a great story that leaves everybody better off than they were when they started. And that's entirely doable here. And I think we could go back to the brief discussion we had a little while ago about Cena, Rock. Just let Cena take it off Cody. Let Rock take it off Cena. Bring Cody back. If that story is laid out and committed to in a way that everybody believes it's going to happen, I think that would be awesome. You got the next year booked. You're not even there yet. You haven't even gotten on a plane to go to Vegas, and your next year's already booked. Could be. So in that scenario, would I see John getting the belt? Yeah, I would. It'd be interesting. It'd be good for Cody. There's a lot of look. You're not going to get, in my humble fucking opinion.
Wow.
Cody's not going to get a lot more over than he is staying on top. But he's such a good baby face and such a good face for the company. He'll get more over getting it back than he will holding on to it. That's the best way to say it. He'll get more steam, more momentum, more opportunity to get himself over in a different way if he's chasing that championship for the next 12 months as opposed to defending it.
So that's your fucking opinion. You have a non-fucking opinion.
No, my opinion's a fucking opinion in either case.
All right, let me ask you this real question. Actually, pop question. What's the worst you think your nuts ever smelled?
Junior high school wrestling team. Brutal, brother. Brutal. And it had everything to do with my jockstrap because I didn't take it home every day to wash it. So that thing would hang in my locker. Not just me, everybody was like, yeah, I'll just hang it up. It'll dry out. Yeah. High school was rough on my nuts.
Nothing worse than dick hair stank. Whole body deodorant is what we're talking about. Thanks to our friends at Mando. It's safe to use anywhere on your body. Your pits, your balls, your thigh folds, your belly buttons, your butt cracks, even your feet. It was created by a doctor who went to school with Eric, by the way, who saw firsthand how normal BO was being misdiagnosed and mistreated. Holy shit, I just realized. Maybe the chick who created this smelled your jockstrap and said, I got to fucking get to the bottom of this. It's been clinically proven to block odor all day long. Talking about Mando, it even controls odor for up to 72 hours. You can even check it out in a few different product options. You've got the solid deodorant stick, which has been formulated and powered by mandelic acid in order to stop odor before it even starts. And you've got the spray deodorant. It's aluminum free, and it's ideal for those hard to reach places, especially if you got those little T-Rex arms like Dave Silva. All the products are baking soda free. They're paraben free. And you can choose from a variety of fresh scents like bourbon leather or clover woods or Pro Sport or even Mr. Fuji. Mount Fuji. Mando has been proven to control odor better than just a shower with soap alone. And if you're ready to try America's #1 whole body deodorant formula right now, I've got good news. You can find them in Walmart, Target, and other retailers across the country. But for the best deals and to support our show, go to shopmando.com. That's where you'll find the Mando starter pack. It really is perfect for new customers, and it comes with a solid stick deodorant, the cream tube deodorant, and 2 free products of your choice, like the mini body wash and the deodorant wipes. Plus, you get free shipping, and that's a special offer for our listeners. New customers get $5 off a starter pack with our exclusive code. That's like 40% off your starter pack when you use our code 83weeks at shopmando.com. That's shopmando.com. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Smell fresher, stay drier, and boost your confidence from head to toe with Mando.
You know what? The lady that invented that, she's a doctor. She's a gynecologist. Her name is Dr. Shannon Klingman. She lives in Minnetonka, Minnesota, where I went to high school.
I mentioned that on the ad. I'm sorry.
Did you?
You missed some great stuff. I said she actually created it because your jock strap smelled that bad.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, she might heard about it. In fact, I'm looking at her age, thinking obviously didn't know her when I was in high school, but I might have known her mom, so it might have been passed along. As well.
Yeah. Maybe you got to get to the bottom of these guys stinking up.
Yeah.
Travis Medway wants to know, WWE tickets are so high. Eric, did you have a say in ticketing prices for WCW? WWE even has crowds cheering for paying high prices. Are the current high prices short-sighted? Yeah, let's start with the last question first. Do you think WWE has priced themselves out of the market? Is their price increase and the level they're at now short-sighted? Just to give you some context, Eric, if you'd like to have lunch with John Cena at WrestleMania, you can do that for $25,000. If you'd like to get Steve Austin to sign a sheet of paper for you and write Stone Cold Steve Austin on it, that'll be $800. If you'd like to have a beer with Mickey James and Austin Theory, that's only $8,000. Now, if you'd like to get a photo with Lex Luger and Triple H at the same time, just run you a cool $8,500. You can even watch one of Shawn Michaels' favorite matches with Shawn Michaels for the low price of $8,000 per person. And I guess there's some people who think maybe they've priced themselves out of the market. What do you make of this, Eric? We've seen crazy high prices like this at Comic Cons and the UFC, and now we're seeing it for WWE. Maybe not surprising under the TKO banner. What do you make of this, Eric?
Good for them. Here's when you've priced yourself out of the market: when you stop selling tickets.
There it is. Come on now.
That's just the answer to the question. It's so easy. And the first part of the question was, did I have any say? Yeah, I did. I relied on Zane Breslov, and that's pretty much it when it came to ticket pricing, because Zane had his finger on the pulse. Zane knew what the wrestling market could sustain. He was well aware of WWE pricing, so we had to be cognizant of that. We couldn't go do our own thing. So yeah, I had some say, but I left it up to other people.
AOTV Productions says, I wonder if we can set up a meeting with Vince Russo and Eric so Eric can tell him how wrong he is. You've said it before. Have you? Yeah, I thought you'd say that.
Why would I do that? It wouldn't be fun. I have no need to explain myself in any way, shape, or form to him. And there's absolutely nothing he can say that would change the way I feel about anything in life. Anything. So given that, why would I spend 5 minutes? I would spend 5 minutes with anybody that fell into that category.
Josh Henney says, I was at Omaha Wednesday and a match taped went to a time limit draw. Not hearing the commentary, the finish killed the audience. Eric, what do you think of the time limit draw? I mean, we used to see this all the time back in the day, but I remember when they were doing them in house shows back in the day, the ring announcer, you probably remember this, Eric, 10 minutes past, 20 minutes remaining. And then you get closer and closer. 5 minutes remaining, 1 minute remaining. So that added to the drama. But if they did that on television, and again, I haven't seen it, without that going through the house, I could see how that would take you out of it if you don't know that there's this added sense of urgency that the audience at home knows, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I like the idea. Look, there was a time, and this is, after I got to W, I was still a talent. I was still just a talent. This is before I got into management. But looking at the WCW format and just talking through it, with either Jim Ross or Tony Schiavone or Keith Mitchell or Dusty. I talked a lot to Dusty. I liked a format that mixed things up enough where you couldn't predict every single thing. Wrestling is so formulaic in many respects, like any story is. They all have a formula. Really, really good stories have really, really defined and disciplined formulas and stories that connect them. And wrestling does too. You get into a familiar pattern. the way you set a match up, the angle going into it, the promos after it, everything starts developing a rhythm that's unique to whoever the writing team is. And it's always nice to break that rhythm up because you get people used to that rhythm. They start feeling like they can predict what's going on. And sometimes that's just subconscious. They just see the same pattern so often. And before long, they feel like there's not going to be anything surprising. So it's nice to do something that just kind of breaks that chain of monotony. Just cut a link short, weaken one of the links. So it's, whoa, that's different. That would, okay, I got to pay attention. Why did that happen? I know that seems like really, really nuanced and maybe sounds stupid to some, but you've got to figure out a way to break up the monotony of wrestling. Because if you really sit down and think about it, you're seeing, I don't know how many moves we see during a show. I mean, unique individual moves that you only see once during the course of a show. It would be a real interesting exercise to watch an entire episode. Okay, we've got to have some interns out there, somebody that's out there that watches wrestling, that loves wrestling, that has the time. Maybe they're AI masters. So I challenge you. You can go to ericbischoff.com, contact me, leave me your email address, and tell me how you would do this. But how would you watch a show? Let's say SmackDown. Let's use SmackDown first, or use AEW, either one, whatever your favorite show is. Watch it and track every single individual move you see during the course of a show. It would be hard, but do that. I wonder how many different moves you see through the course of a show. I wonder if it's like really only 6, or maybe it's 60. I don't know. I've never thought about it that way. But something tells me that if somebody actually does this, we'll be shocked at how many times we see the same move over and over and over again. Now, it's performed by different people in different situations with different impacts or effects or whatever. But in terms of the move sets, you just don't see a lot of different moves. So anytime you can break up that monotony in any way, the better. Because otherwise wrestling starts feeling too predictable. And that's one of the things wrestling fans, I talked about this in some of the research that we did when we launched Nitro, is one of the things that fans talked about how much they love is spontaneity and surprises. The thing that they got bored with the most is when it got predictable.
Venice Beach Dub says, breaking news, Brian Cage injured an OWA show in Hollywood. Looks like a blown quad. I haven't seen or heard that. I don't know if I believe that. But he did say, question for Eric, can you talk about WCW Cruiserweight Blitzkrieg? I don't know if you've seen this, Eric, but Blitzkrieg almost became like an internet sensation. People became obsessed with his story. It feels like he came out of nowhere, was received pretty well as an innovative high flyer. And then poof, he was gone. We've heard things like, oh, he was a computer programmer and he just left the business. Do you remember Blitzkrieg at all?
No. I mean, the name sounds familiar, but it's, it's Blitzkrieg. So, who knows where I heard it from, but I don't remember the individual.
I think his last match, believe it or not, was actually October of 99. It was a Thunder, and then he was done. Over at cagematch.net, they've only got 53 matches for him. It was like he only had a handful of matches, and then poof, he's on WCW programming. So, yeah, we got to get to the bottom of Blitzkrieg one day. If you're listening to this and you know about Blitzkrieg and where he's at these days, we'd love to chat with him. Speaking of chatting with him, I don't know if we've promoted or announced this yet. In the coming weeks, we're going to be catching up with Mark Marrow. He's got a brand new book out. I can't wait for you to read it, Eric. It's quite a page turner, and he pulls no punches. He's brutally honest. A lot of times in wrestling books, you got to wonder, is this a corporate book? Are they taking care of the company? Do they have an axe to grind? Are they going to deflect? Mark Marrow tackled every tough subject, and I mean all of them, head on in the book. I highly recommend it. It's available now on Amazon, but I'm looking forward to you guys chatting because we actually sort of freestyled the other day on 80 or on adfreeshows.com. What if he wouldn't have left? He leaves in March of 96. 2 months later, Scott Hall comes down the stands and the NWO ball starts rolling. It would have felt like he could have been a guy to sort of wave the banner for WCW. And he would have been with the company when they went from to the number one wrestling company in the world. But instead, he switches teams, and well, it just didn't end up exactly how he hoped. That'll be an interesting conversation, you and him catching up here, don't you think?
Yeah, and we haven't spoken to each other even socially, because I see people all the time. And I was in New York last weekend, and I did get a chance to talk to Rick because he had quite a big line, and I didn't, but we didn't get a chance to connect. Talked to him this morning though. That was interesting and fun. But we see each other at these different conventions and autograph signings. But Mark is one guy that I've just never crossed paths with since he and I had a conversation in the airport, and he told me he wanted to leave to go to WWE. So it'll be a really great time for me personally, great experience for me to reconnect with Mark. I think Mark, and I know this because a mutual friend had shared it with me recently, that Mark has kind of felt like he had heat with me. And that's not true. But I'd like to know why he felt that way. And I'll ask him that question. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It'll be a great conversation. I'm very excited to talk to Mark.
Well, we're excited to catch up with Mark here, and I'm excited to tell everyone listening about Magic Spoon. But now you already know about their nostalgically delicious cereal. It tastes just like our childhood favorites, but what we used to eat as a kid was really a bowl full of sugar. And now, thanks to Magic Spoon, it's a bowl full of protein. And they've also launched a brand new high protein granola. And true to the Magic Spoon promise, it's packed with protein and it's so crunchy. You've heard me brag about the treats here for a while. They're crispy, they're crunchy, they're airy, and they're an easy way to get 12 grams of protein on the go. So if I get a shot of me right fast, just before we went live here on the program today, I crushed a double chocolate. I've talked about it for a long time, and there you see, there's proof, no surprise, but 12 grams of protein. How about that? They come in mouth-watering flavors like marshmallow, chocolate, peanut butter, and dark chocolate. I just smashed the double chocolate. I highly recommend you check it out. And while you're there, check out Magic Spoon's brand new granola packs. They pack in 13 grams of protein, but 0 added sugars with a ton of delicious flavors like dark chocolate almond, or how about honey almond, or even peanut butter. So get $5 off your next order at magicspoon.com/83weeks, or look for Magic Spoon on Amazon or in your nearest grocery store. That's magicspoon.com/83weeks for $5 off. Fixstream Bob wants to know, Eric, did you ever have any interaction with Jamie Kellner when he was ahead of Fox or the WB? Of course, we know what he did to WCW at the very end, but did you cross paths with him at Fox or WB?
I did not. I knew who he was, obviously, but I had never had an occasion to meet him or be in a meeting with him or anything like that.
82 Atlantic has a kind of a weird question. When you parted ways with WWE in 2019, what happened with the lease on your Connecticut apartment? Were you forced to pay rent on the remaining months?
No, it was a short-term lease, and I think I had like 2 or 3 months left. We were looking at another apartment, a bigger one, in a different building. So we had just found an apartment that we were going to move into, but we had like 2 months to do it. So no, and it was WWE was paying for it anyway. Whatever was left on a lease was a WWE obligation, not an Eric Bischoff obligation. But I think there was only about 2 months left. And I had the option to stay in that one if I wanted to, and WWE would have kept paying for it. But it was, don't get me wrong, it was not a bad place, but it was a corporate apartment, if you know what I mean, furniture-wise and everything else. So no way I could stay there.
Liquid Fox says, hey, Eric, you were one of the best heels. Did you ever want to be a face in WWE? Or is it true that it's more fun to play the heel?
I couldn't tell you because I've never played a babyface, so I don't have anything to compare it to. But for me personally, I can't imagine being a babyface. I can only relate to being a heel because I'm not, and part of it is because I'm not a wrestler. How does a babyface non-wrestler get over? Weak shit, not interested, doesn't feel right. It's just not possible, really. If you don't have that, physical threat to back it up and keep people on their toes, it's just too. I don't even know if it's possible. Certainly isn't for me, for sure.
Virgil Dawkins says, if WWE did decide to relaunch WCW as a brand alongside Raw and SmackDown, who in WWE would you like to see on the roster? And would you ever be involved if asked? Okay, now that's interesting. Let's say they announce that they're bringing WCW, the brand, back, and your phone rings, and that's our great close personal friend, Bruce Pritchard, who says, hey, Eric, what if, those famous Bruce Pritchard words, how would you receive that?
Depends what follows the what if.
Okay.
I can't imagine it. I mean, it's fun to think about. Don't get me wrong. Like initially, my first, as the neural pathways in my brain start firing and flooding with information, of course I'm gonna go, wow, that'd be fun. If it was 20 years ago, or if it was 15 years ago. But now, no, I'm good. I'm good. That part of my life, I say this with so much joy and respect and gratitude, mostly gratitude. I'm so grateful for that time of my life, but I absolutely have no need to relive any of it at all, other than what we do here. This is fun. I like doing this, but I don't feel, you hear me talk about that performer's itch. I think I've scratched that. I think I'm good. I'm grateful for every minute of it, but I don't feel that need anymore that I probably would have 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago, certainly 20 years ago, but not anymore. And taking that aside, what would that look like? I mean, there's no talent left. Bill Goldberg's, touch and go. I think he's still waiting to get cleared. Who else is there? There's nobody that represents WCW that's still active in the ring. Now, could you come up with a second generation of, or, some kind of a tribute to WCW thing? Could it be done? Of course it can be done. But would I be interested in doing it? Absolutely not. I'd be interested in watching it for sure, but not being a part of it.
Let's do an old WCW question. SDO is with us here live, and he says, hey, Eric, who do you think should be Goldberg's last send-off match, and where does he rank in all-time over baby faces? Let's start with the last one first. What do you think of great baby faces in the history of wrestling? Is Goldberg in your top 5, top 10?
From 1990, whatever, for the 2 years or 3 years that...
98, 99, maybe?
Yeah. Yeah, he was hot then. He was one of the top baby faces in the business at that time. In some respects, not in all respects, but in some. He didn't have the merchandise sales of Stone Cold Steve Austin, clearly. He didn't have the pay-per-view buys of Stone Cold Steve Austin, clearly. But ratings-wise, yeah, we were neck and neck. 97, 98. Even early 99, I think. No, I think by 99 we were hurting. But yeah, for a period of time. But if you look at the last 20 years, he's not in the middle. He's in the middle of the pack in the last 20 years. There's a lot of talent. No, that's not fair. I would say upper third. But there's been a lot of great talent that's come through there and gotten really over in the last 10, 15 years. But during that 2-year period, man, he was on fire.
Shout out to Derek Zoo, who's just joined us to be a member here at 83weeks.com. We greatly appreciate you joining us. Welcome to the club, Derek, and Keep doing your thing. We love hearing your stories. And I don't know if you've seen, but Derek is a stand-up comedian, Eric, and he's got a cool t-shirt that says, "Hello, I'm rooting for you." I think that's a cool little phrase, don't you think? I'm
Yeah.
rooting for you. That's cool. Shout out to Derek. Alex says, was there any consideration to put the big gold belt on Booker T in 97, 98? Was that a missed opportunity, or did his WCW career go as it should have? And I want to remind you, Eric, I know you probably already know this. Booker T is actually the most decorated wrestler in WCW history. No one won as many championships in WCW as Booker T. So when you're saying, did his career go as it should have? I know he didn't win the big gold belt until the very end there, but goodness gracious, he had every belt, right, Eric?
He did, and he got a tremendous amount of TV time. He got himself over. He took advantage of every opportunity, and he made the most of every opportunity because he's a pro. But to suggest that we missed an opportunity by not doing something other than what we were doing in 97 and 98 doesn't make a lot of sense. It was a missed opportunity for perhaps for Booker, because wouldn't that have been nice to be able to just get plucked right in the middle of the hottest roster that was making more money and generating more revenue and more ratings than anybody in the world at that time. And yeah, to be plucked out of the upper third and be plucked right on top would have been a great opportunity for Booker, but it wouldn't have been a smart business move. In the long run, I don't think it would have been good for Booker. Not that Booker didn't have the talent and the ability, but just where WCW was and where the audience's head was at and just where NWO was. Could it have been done? Sure. Was it a missed opportunity? I don't buy that. It was an opportunity, but I don't think it was a better opportunity than some of the ones that we had at that time.
Eric, I saw some silly reports earlier today. I don't know if you saw these, but have you seen the reports that they're actually going to start offering financing for food delivery? So if you were using something like Uber Eats or DoorDash or something like that, they're actually going to have an option where you can finance the purchase and just charge it as opposed to paying for it. I don't know if you've seen that, but I've seen some funny tweets online that say things like, "The year is 2026. I have now defaulted on my burrito loan." I mean, can you believe this is where we're doing, how this is going right now?
And it's what we need is more debt, right? I mean, as a country, don't we need new ways? Let's invent some ways to keep people completely financially underwater for the rest of their lives. If it wasn't enough that we could force them into near bankruptcy with the cost and the ease of access to student loans, if it's not enough that we send a doctor out of medical school with $500,000 of loans that he's never going to be able to pay back, let's make him go into debt for eating the only thing he can afford to eat, which is a freaking burrito and a hamburger, because he's got to put that on his credit card.
Now feels like a good time to remind you that SaveWithEric.com can help you get rid of all that credit card debt. You don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket. And how's this for starters? No house payments in April or in May. You're done until June 1st. And come June 1st, you're going to be saving a boatload of cash. Just earlier this week, I talked to a family who saved more than $1,700 a month. And you can do it too. If you can hear my voice and you've got credit card debt, what are you waiting for? And I know some of you have been waiting for the rates to come down. Well, respectfully, you didn't wait until your credit card rate came down. You see, no matter what your interest rate is on your mortgage, you know it's too expensive on your credit card. That's higher than giraffe booty, if you know what I'm talking about. I've routinely seen credit card interest rates at like 26, 29, 31, even 34%. I know you can do better than that. Not only is it a much better interest rate, but it's also tax deductible. You see, the interest you pay on your house is tax deductible, but the interest you pay on a credit card, well, it's not. So if you could get a cheaper monthly payment and get a greater tax deduction, what are you waiting for? Find out how much money you can save for free at SaveWithEric.com. Again, you don't need perfect credit or money out of your pocket, but if you've got credit card debt, Let us run the numbers. It's not a matter of if we can save you money, but a matter of how much at savewitheric.com. We got a question here from Fat Factor. He wants to know, Eric, regarding cricket, it's the world's biggest league, the IPL, and it's starting tomorrow. Who is your team this year?
I don't have a team this year. I'm going to determine my team this year once I get the show. By the way, the show is going to air tentatively scheduled for April 18th. So that's pencil that in, April 18th. You're going to be
right before WrestleMania.
Yeah, right before. Yeah, we're going to celebrate WrestleMania. Hopefully, we're going to be ready by then, and we're going to kick it off on Friday, April 18th. So we'll see. We'll see. I'll be taping the show in the morning because I'm going to be going to the Hall of Fame that night, and Mrs. B is going to be with me. So I'll be taping the show Friday morning, and we'll release it shortly thereafter. So I'm kind of excited. Stumps and bumps, or bumps and stumps. I'm not sure yet. We'll flip a coin.
Just stay tuned. We'll keep you abreast. We'll make sure you have all the information right here at 83weeks.com. Alex wants to know, what's the most painful bump you've ever taken?
Off the stage, Kane, when he choke slammed me off the stage. And it was minor. And it was self-inflicted. Because I didn't know how to take a bump, especially off a stage. And I made a rookie mistake as I was going down. As I was concentrating on tucking my chin and all that. But I reached back to try to find the floor before I hit it. And when I did, I broke my thumb. Stupid rookie move. That was it. Other than that, I never, ever. I took a power bomb from Sid that loosened me up pretty good. If you go back and look at that, you'll understand what I mean. But that, and I took a spear from Goldberg in WWE, and I should have positioned myself in the center of the ring, but I kind of pace when I cut promos, and I move around a lot, trying to face as many different directions of the audience as I could. And I had worked myself back towards the corner, too close to the corner. So when Bill turned around to spear me, I didn't leave myself any room to get blown back. And I ended up bouncing my head off the cable, off the ring rope, the bottom ring rope. And that loosened me up pretty good too. But that was it. It didn't hurt. It didn't knock me out, but it's like that split second or two. Like, you played football in high school, you get hit well enough, you don't go down, you're not unconscious, but you shouldn't be driving a car right then either. That's how I felt.
Hey, we were talking earlier about what to do with WrestleMania, and our buddy Kevin Nash over on his fabulous podcast, Click This, suggested, hey, you know who should be the third man that The Rock was seemingly referring to? If he's one and John Cena's two, what if the third man was Randy Orton? Kevin Nash likes that idea. And listen, as far as being longtime WWE performers who have seen the fans sort of go back and forth with them, if that's the story they're trying to tell, Randy Orton checks that box, doesn't he?
Phew, yeah. And for all the reasons I talked about earlier, I'd love to see that one too. That'd be awesome. He's got the attitude. He could sell it. Believable. Good chemistry too. I think you'd have some. I'd like to see the chemistry between Rock and Randy. That'd be fun to watch. Good call, Kev.
Anthony Manzano says, looking back on it now, do you wish WCW, instead of focusing on more established talent, started developing more younger talent for the company to survive? Is that a regret, Eric? If you had it to do over again, would you have pushed the Benoits and the Jerichos and the Guerreros further up the card sooner?
Like in 96 and 97 and 98, like when we were making money hand over fist. Yeah, I would have taken all the top guys that got us there. I would have taken all those top guys. When I talk about top guys, I'm picking on Sting and Hogan and Flair, Piper and Randy Savage and Lex Luger. Yeah, I'd take those guys and say, look, you guys are too old. It's not working out anymore. You guys got to help get this younger talent over. And yeah, I would have thrown Chris Benoit right into the world championship. 98, 97, man, that would have been the smartest thing ever, wouldn't it? I say jokingly, no. It's so easy to fantasy book a rationale that you think would work or you think would be fun to watch, but it's not real. It would have been good for, and even though they would have wanted it, I mean, Jericho really wanted it. Jericho wanted it bad. He wanted it so bad he left and went to WWE to get it. But at that time, with our roster, from a business perspective, it would not have made any sense. What did make sense is to bring guys in and give them a national primetime platform to help get them over so that they would be ready at some point. I don't know, like aforementioned Chris Benoit, Eddie Guerrero, Dean Malenko, Chris Jericho, Rey Mysterio, any number of, Shane Helms, we had a lot of young talent that we were developing. But the idea that the way to get one of those talents over that's really got talent and is going to eventually be there someday is to thrust them into the limelight, give them that opportunity to get over. Sometimes the worst thing you can do, if the timing isn't right, they're not quite ready, you're not doing anybody any favors. All you're doing is fantasy booking, 2020 hindsight.
Well, we all have 2020 hindsight, but sometimes we don't want to wait until it's too late. That's where Rocket Money comes in. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps you find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions. It helps you monitor your spending and helps you lower your bills, all so you can grow your savings. You'll see all of your subscriptions in one place and know exactly where your money is going. For the ones you don't want anymore, well, Rocket Money can help you cancel them. Rocket Money's dashboard gives you a clear view of your expenses across all of your accounts, and you can easily create a personalized budget with custom categories to help you keep your spending on track. See your monthly spending trends in each category and know exactly where your money is going. You can even get alerts in case your bills increase in price. Maybe there's unusual spending activity, or if you're close to going over your budget. And they've even got a new goals feature, which will automatically help you save money for you. So you don't even have to think about it. You can use that cash to pay off your credit card debt or put away money for a house, or just build your saving. Really, Rocket Money makes it easy. Rocket Money will even help to try to negotiate to lower your bills for you. See, they automatically scan your bills to find opportunities to save, and then you can ask them to negotiate on your behalf. You see, they deal with customer service, so you don't have to. Rocket Money has over 5 million users, and they've saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when they use all of the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions today and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Just go to rocketmoney.com/83weeks today. That's rocketmoney.com/83weeks. rocketmoney.com/83weeks. Eric, we got a shout out here from Adam Clemens, who's been a member here for a whole year. Shout out to you, Adam. And he says, with Lex finally going into the Hall of Fame, who's your Mount Rushmore of nicest wrestlers? Any era and any promotion, you got to have Lex and Mark Mero on the list, right? So who is on your list?
Gosh, this I got to think about that for a long time. There's a lot of people you got to go through. Yeah, I mean, I think for sure Lex, after the interview that we just did with him and the amount of joy that guy radiates just being in the room. Yeah, definitely Lex. I haven't talked to Mark since he told me in the airport he was leaving to go to WWE. So I got to get a feel for Mark, and I'm sure that we will when we're on the phone.
John
Cena, based on everything that I'm reading and seeing, yeah, I'm sure he is. But nicest is such a tough term because it means different things to different people. But when I think of nice people, I think of people that I enjoy just being around. Like the vibe is good, the energy, whatever you want to call it. You guys don't know him. A lot of people don't know him that well, but Ernest Miller is one of the nicest people you'll ever be around. He's just a sweet guy. But there's a lot of them. I feel bad leaving people off that list. So I'll think about that and get back to you. I'll circle back on that one.
T Zags says, Eric, can you name a wrestler who isn't in the Hall of Fame who deserves it? Is there someone overlooked? At this time of year, we usually hear names like Demolition or Miss Elizabeth or Cyndi Lauper. I mean, hell, even the Dynamite Kid, Brian Pillman. Is there a wrestler out there that jumps off the list to you? I mean, I could argue Jim Johnston. I know he's not technically a wrestler. I think some people would argue China as a single. We know that Owen Hart, his family doesn't want him to go in, but is there one that stands out above all else that you think should be in?
I know I'm biased here, but I think Miss Elizabeth, I think the Mega Power story and Hulk and Randy and her role in all of that, she brought so much class to what was typically regarded as a classless sport, right? A form of entertainment. She kind of cleaned the joint up a lot. And I doubt there's many wrestling fans that are alive today that were around and in their peak fandom period in their teens, so to speak, that were a part of all that don't remember that very fondly and her role in it. So I would say Miss Elizabeth.
You got to think Sid at some point too. I mean, my man main evented 2 WrestleManias. How's he not in already?
We talked about that. If you look at his resume, it's kind of like, what the hell? Why not?
It's a no-brainer. Alex wants to know, from a worker's perspective, what would you say is the difference in a WCW style match versus a WWE style match? Was there a difference?
I think the precision, just I'll call it tightness for lack of a better term right now off the top of my head, in the in-ring performances were better in WWE. Things were crisper. They tended to mean more because there was less of them. Very generally. Not the case all the time. Don't even bother typing. Don't even bother posting your comments. I'm being very general here because it's a very big question. The finishes were always better. Finishes were always better in WWE. And therefore the story leading up to the finish. So I think the crispness of the action in the ring, the storytelling in the story in the match, leading up to a much better finish generally than WCW. In a broad way, that's how I would describe the difference. I think there were some things in WCW that in some people's minds made it better. I think there was more believability across the board. Especially the early WCW stuff. It was stiff. It was pretty stiff. So that, WCW had its high points too, but overall the WWE high points kind of did the trick.
We're having a lot of fun giving you guys the keys to the show today. If you've got some questions for Eric, we want you to keep those questions coming. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell. We've got an old question that we didn't get to once upon a time. This one comes to us from Damon's Row. He says, Brett was a Plan B champion. He never was a Hogan. Without the NWO, there would be no Stone Cold. I feel like they speak on the NWO from a YouTube perspective. You had to be there. Respect OG Eric. B. Needler wants to know, Eric, how did you manage to play the asshole character so well? I remember hating you as a kid, but looking back, I realized it was good acting from you.
I just came by it naturally. I've worked on that character my whole life. It was easy for me because, look, the audience had an impression of me. I didn't deserve the job. This guy he wasn't even a wrestler. Who'd he ever be? Doesn't even know how to lace up a pair of boots. And now he's running the wrestling company. I mean, that was kind of the general consensus. So kind of taking the way the audience felt about me anyway, and then giving him more reason to feel even more strongly. It made it pretty easy. It wasn't like I was the greatest actor in the world. I was just able to figure out the audience already pretty had a they already wanted to dislike me. I just had to help them along. Made it fun.
We got another question here from see if I have this one right. Rami, and he says, you once hinted at a Cody Rhodes angle that you wish you could pitch if you had 5 minutes to hear you out. Will you ever tell us what that was? Did you have an idea for Cody? I guess you teased it on a show. It said you needed
Not
a
so
little
much an
time.
idea for a match or an angle, but for his character and his direction. And no, I'm not going to pitch it here
Okay, got it.
because it's
Michael
that,
Appleton
it's
says,
just
with lots.
that good.
Oh, it's one of those. Okay.
It's one of those.
Michael Appleton says, with lots of rumors flying around about potential other superstars to join The Rock and Cena, who would you put into the new faction? So if it wasn't Randy Orton, is there another idea? Is there another name that you like?
Karrion Kross needs something.
Wow.
And he's, my opinion, and I know him. I mean, we've said hello together. We've said hello to each other once or twice. That's the extent of it. But I just feel something. My instinct tells me something about that guy. What I've seen of him feels a little bit forced isn't quite the right word, but his character to me feels like it's off about 3 degrees. It just needs to be fine-tuned a little bit, but he's a dangerous guy. He's good in the ring. There's something a little mysterious about him, and that's projected intentionally. But I think if they dialed that back just a little bit and brought a little bit more authenticity to him, unpolish him just a little bit, I think he could be a really cool character. There's a lot to work with there.
We've got a bunch of questions about John Cena. This one comes to us from Michael Scoggins. With Cena's last run being a heel, do you think that they will bookend his run with a redemption sort of ending? I mean, that's got to be the answer, right? There's no way he retires a heel, right, Eric?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
And A, I don't think so. And B, I don't think it would be so easy. It would be so easy to tell that story, and it would be such a good story to tell. I mean, redemption, that's we all as a culture now, not just as wrestling fans, but we all love to see the rise, and we can't wait till they fall. That's the journey, and it follows that path. I mean, that's storytelling. Redemption, that's what a redemption story is. Falling from grace and finding redemption. That's been the premise of so many stories since the beginning of storytelling time. So anytime you can figure out a way to apply that to any story, but particularly professional wrestling, I think it's a cool thing. So I hope they find it.
It is interesting to think about what's next. Hey, we just saw a fun little comment here pop up. Check this one out. Stone Cold Stunner says, would a lady fit for the third man? So if we're talking about The Rock being number one, perhaps John Cena being number two, he suggests, what if the third person is a female named Becky Lynch? Becky Lynch coming back and everyone assuming she's a babyface, but then she heals on them. Boy, that feels like an Eric Bischoff move all day right there.
That was exciting to think about. I got
We can see that one, can't we?
Yeah, and what a shocker.
Yes.
But I could also picture it in my head really easy. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I don't know what you do with her, but have at it. I'm sure you're just limited by your own lack of imagination. Come up with something.
Travis Medway says, when WCW Nitro ratings were falling, would a change of night been in any way advantageous? SmackDown has moved several times over the years. Could the lack of nightly competition against Raw have helped? Was that ever considered, Eric? Do you remember ever having any conversation about what if we move Nitro to Tuesday or some other day?
Nope. I didn't. Brad Siegel may have, but he didn't have it with me or Harvey Schiller. No. And it wouldn't look. WCW was kicking WWE's ass all the way up until whatever it was, the end of 98, first part of 99. And by then, nobody was thinking anything in terms of broadcasting other than getting it out of Turner. There was no, let's find a way to save it. It was, they were already determining how to put a stake through the heart of WCW. So, no, it never came up in conversation.
Luis Martinez is with us here live, and he wants to know, Eric, do ratings even matter with streaming taking over now?
I don't know. Ask any cable outlet or any television network. Ask anybody that works there if ratings matter. Of course it matters. Of course it matters. Where do you think the money comes for these TV rights? Do you think it comes from the highly profitable streaming platforms that carry them? None of them are making any money. It's all ad driven. Even the streaming platforms themselves are ad driven more and more and more. So yeah, ratings will always matter. Don't let anybody kid you. Ratings will always matter until they come up with another unit of measure that can be exchanged for cash. Ratings will always matter.
Mr. Whisper had a question we didn't get to before, but I think it warrants asking now. With Mania around the corner, what do you think was the feud of the year? Eric, for me, this past year, it feels like the feud of the year, in my opinion, was CM Punk and Drew McIntyre. Do you have one you liked better?
No, and I agree with that one. We'll let for now. I mean, it'd be interesting to see what they do with Punk and Seth. That one already feels kind of good to me. We'll see. If they're done with it, they continue it. I don't know. I'm becoming more and more of a Punk fan. I know we talked about that already, but he's a different player in WWE than he was in AEW. He looks different. He carries himself different. He's not saying stupid shit. He's like a different talent. And we talked about that. When there was a rumor that he was going to be leaving and would he possibly end up in WWE? And you and I talked about it. I thought that he would do well there because he would be in a completely different environment and, quite frankly, a more professional environment. And he's certainly done all of that and more.
There's an interesting question that we didn't get to once before that I know you're going to have a lot of thoughts on. I want to tee you up here and give you a minute to think about it. The question comes to us from Cool Fool 1980, Eric, and he says, with the rise of AI, do you believe that AI will be used in wrestling for things such as creative? So, Eric, I want you to be thinking about the use or potential use of AI in wrestling. And while you're thinking about that, I want our listening audience to think about how hard you can get your ding dong. Thanks to our friends at Blue Chew. Have better sex with Blue Chew. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. And starting now, Blue Chew is offering a combo so strong it'll knock your socks off and your neighbor's socks off. You'll have to move towns with the amount of noise you'll be making. Blue Chew Max has arrived, and it combines the active ingredients of Viagra and Cialis, but into one chewable. The combo acts fast and it lasts. Mrs. B was just telling me the other day, not really. Guys, be ready when she needs it and get your first month of Blue Chew free. Great sex is a few clicks away, so just go sign up at bluechew.com. Consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew's tablets are made in the USA and they're prepared and shipped directly to your door. And the best part is it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversation, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. So make your life easier by getting harder and discover your options at bluechew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use our promo code 83weeks. Just pay the $5 shipping. That's promo code 83weeks when you visit bluechew.com for more details and important safety information. And we want to thank Blue Chew for sponsoring today's podcast and Eric Sweener. And Eric, I know during the break you were chubbing it up. Do you want to show everybody how hard you got during the break?
Hold on. No, we're good.
No, seriously, have you thought about AI in wrestling? What do you think about that?
Oh, yeah, I've done it. I've used it. When AI first became a thing, and, a year ago, 2 years ago, whatever it was, might have been longer than that, 2.5 years ago, I said, I want to try to figure this stuff out. I got on Chat GPT, and I was like, when you had to almost kind of wait in line, like early on, you'd register, and then eventually you'd get in, and they'd teach you how to use it or guide you through it. But yeah, I did it. I was fascinated then. I'm using it a lot now for other things, not for creative for wrestling, but in the applications that I'm using it for now, it's unlimited. It's absolutely unlimited what you can do with AI. I would be shocked if it's not being used already in some way, shape, or form, because you can really do a lot of work in a very short period of time with an amazing amount of precision. And yes, it even applies to creative. So absolutely it will.
Jack D is with us here live, and he says, if you had successfully purchased WCW in 2001, do you think you would have eventually tried turning Sting heel or not after the failed turn on Lex? If you got control of WCW, could you have seen yourself turning Sting heel, Eric?
Maybe, who knows what idea, do I see myself listening to a good idea and going, yeah, let's do that good idea? Yes, I absolutely do that. Is there a possibility somebody could have come up with a good idea to turn Sting heel, regardless of whatever happened with Lex? That's a possibility. So I don't mean to be a smartass about it, but it's hard to answer that question any other way than saying, depends on the idea. Seems plausible that somebody could have come up with one.
AOTV Productions really love stirring it up, and he wants to know, Eric, what are the chances Tony Khan will get so desperate he'll reach out to Vince Russo for help with creative?
Conrad, you know the answer to that better than I do, but my impression is less than zero.
What'd they say in Animal House? 0.0. Sad Man Steve had a question we didn't get to once upon a time, and he wants to know, Eric, speaking of bully, did WCW ever have any thought of bringing over the Dudleys? That's interesting. We saw the Public Enemy experiment, if you will, in WCW. In an alternate universe, could that have been the Dudley Boys? What would that have looked like? Was there ever any serious discussion?
Not with me, possibly with Kevin Sullivan, maybe Terry Taylor, but likely Kevin Sullivan, but it never got to me. So I would suggest there were no serious conversations happening, or it probably would have been run by me and I would have been interested, but it didn't happen that way.
We got to do another one here. This is another question that we missed, but I think it's a great one. Angry Duckling Institution wants to know, hi, Eric. I hope your week is well. At any given time, did any of your WCW wrestlers ever receive the type of heat Sean received during the screw job?
No. Nothing close.
All right. Well, that'll do it. Alex wants to know, Conrad, why does WWE recognize Flair as a 16-time champ when in reality it's more? Why doesn't that get talked about enough? It's actually 20, right? I think the actual number is 21. But who's keeping count? When WWE started saying 16X, Flair started signing 16X. I'm not saying anybody's told me this, but if I were a betting man and Cody did drop the title to John Cena and Cena became a 17X, I wonder if moving forward, if we see Rick start signing 20.
We're going to have some clarifications of the records here. Your Honor, may I approach the bench, please? I have proof that my client has indeed achieved the level of 21-time world heavyweight champion. So any suggestion that your defendant is acting in good faith by representing he is the leader in that category is just false.
Isn't it going to be
inflammatory in nature? My client represents that he is suffering damages as a result.
Oh no, come on now.
No, come on, we can have fun with this.
Can you imagine though if I mean, as silly as this is, if they start putting an asterisk by John Cena? He has won the world title the most out of anyone by WWE.
Except for Ric Flair.
By the way, we did a poll here to ask, what do you guys think is going to happen at WrestleMania? And 62% of the folks here with us tonight, Eric, think that Cody should get beat at WrestleMania. They want to see a heel John Cena leave with the title. A heel John Cena does present some interesting opportunities. If they go to Chicago and they get to run back Punk and Cena, but this time Cena comes in as the legitimate heel, and Punk is not just the hometown favorite, but he's the baby face. That could be interesting. And it would be interesting to see if they do another Cena Rock. I don't think they'll do a singles match, but I could see them doing a tag match. We'll see. Luis Martinez says, Eric, did you have a harder time performing as a heel in the Northeast? Being from the Bronx, people loved heels like Savage and hated Hogan. Listen, I think that's always been the case. Whether you're in New York, New Jersey, certainly Baltimore, but my favorite, Philadelphia. My goodness. They love their heels. I mean, even the Midnight Express were getting cheered back in the day. Did you find it harder to be a heel in front of those Northeast smart fans?
Not at all. They hated me there. And I think maybe it's because I was an outsider. You know, WCW was the Southern Wrestling Club, you know, kind of thing. I never had any problem getting, maybe it was me, but no, I felt the opposite. I loved going there. I mean, we talked about the East, of course, the ECW One Night Stand thing. That was a special thing, right? Because I had so much heat on me in ECW, even though I didn't work there. I had heat. But the New York, I never. That's one of the reasons I really love performing in those Eastern markets is because the heat was so good there. I loved it.
Well, we love chopping it up with you guys here today. And if you haven't already, I want to encourage you one more time to hit that subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell. You don't want to miss us the next time we're live. And when we're back next week, we've got a really, really fun topic that I can't wait. We're going to be talking about, but you don't want to miss it. And by the way, if there's any breaking news between now and then, you never know when Eric and I are going to go live. So it's real simple. It's totally free here at 83weeks.com. Hit the subscribe button, turn on the notifications bell. And by the way, give us some feedback. It helps us in the algorithm. If you like today's video, throw us a thumbs up. By the way, if you didn't like it, throw us a thumbs down. Whether you're giving us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, I reckon it's good. Leave us a comment. Tell us how handsome Eazy-E is. Lord knows he needs that. He's got a frail ego. You know, he's been through it. Hey, this was fun today, Eric. We got to bounce around, have some different conversations, talk a little bit about this, a little bit about that. Right now, WWE is enjoying an incredible European tour. So Raw and SmackDown are kind of in the middle of the afternoon. And a lot of my guy friends, man, this is like their Christmas, you know, with March Madness going on right now. It's just one basketball game after another. Of course, we know the NBA playoffs are going to start heating up. Baseball season's getting ready to kick off. There's a lot of momentum and hype just in the sports world. And it won't be too long from now, Eric. WWE is going to break every record imaginable with WrestleMania. When you think about the scope of WrestleMania, thinking about some of the prices we were throwing out earlier for things like a $25,000 eat and greet with John Cena, I mean, would you have ever imagined at any point in history that professional wrestling would be able to, you know, command numbers like that? This feels like this is going to shatter every record by a mile.
No, I would have never even allowed myself to fantasize about this because I would have felt like I was wasting valuable energy that could be applied to something more productive. And how wrong I would have been. It's amazing. Nothing short of amazing.
It really is. We're going to be talking about all that and more as we get down this long and twisty road on our way to WrestleMania. Leave us a comment. Stay tuned. We've got more 83 weeks coming to you next Friday and every Friday right here on 83 Weeks with Eric Bischoff.